Hello. I would like to welcome you all here. I will be presenting for the next 45 minutes or less. The topic is Drupal fast enough for the big commerce? Hope that I will be able to show that on a use case that we've made. We had a big project, e-commerce project on Drupal, and then we just needed more performance, new design, so we tried to figure it out how to do it. And I will talk about, at first, about the solution itself, and then just about what was the plan, what was the new architecture, and what the particular elements of this architecture does, what they do, and how it was configured. So let's start from the beginning. Who am I? I'm a web developer in some so-called COP team. That means that we are commercial publications. We are taking care of around 20 publications on Drupal and WordPress. Publication means domain on domain access on Drupal or something similar. Usually we are using Drupal for bigger and more demanding projects. I work for Schibsted Tech Polska. We are working mainly for Scandinavian media houses. We are placed in Krakow with 120 employees. So right now we are launching Gdańsk hub. And we are mainly about front-end, PHP, Java, something like that. A quite big also PHP department. It depends on the newspaper usually. So let's say a few words about the project itself. Project's name is Gode Tilbud. What in Norwegian it means good offer. And the whole portal is an offer portal for medium or small businesses. That means that they are actually not online businesses, but the businesses that has actual location, some kind of a shop. It could be a music shop, for example. It could be any other, with a shop with watches or anything. And it was primarily built by some Norwegian consultant company in late 2011. The same company was involved in planning of the 2.0 version. And 2.0 is something that I will talk about the most, because that's the new configuration with single page app. So we've got plenty of publications for that project. That means that domain access is running there. So we are running for the biggest newspapers around Norway and one in Sweden. That means that's the list of the newspapers, and first Oslo, Bergen, Kristiansand, Stavanger, Trondheim, and Karlstad. But okay, that's the old one. So that was the looks of the project before we went through changes and established a single page app for it. It was kind of Web 2.0 look, as you can see, not so attractive at the moment. So newspapers demanded some redesign, and while doing redesigns, we just pick our battle to make performance better. So I'm talking about big commerce. I don't know if it's huge, but I think it's big. That's the statistics from 1 year period. And you can see on the left you have views and page views and everything about ads. Ads means the carousel widgets on the newspapers. So the numbers are quite similar to the numbers for the newspaper itself. These page views, that's tremendous number, and 1,050,000, that's the number of actual ads that were shown on the carousel. So that's, if carousel has 40 ads, it will be number 40 because it was counted that way. That's why it's just this crazy number there. But you have to take into consideration, because that's only for one publication in Oslo, that we have 6 million of Norwegian people at all, and half of the million lives in Oslo. So that's still a big number. So primarily in the 1.0 version, we were using Drupal. Our key technologies there were domain access, of course, Drush, no automation, no good automation could be done without it. And also we used Drupal commerce for entities like store, offer, and everything for a kind of self-service for our customers, so they could change a picture or something. But apart of that, of course, we used many other technologies, also Solr just for searching at this point, and heavily use of varnish cache was involved, because without it, our solution just didn't work. It was too heavy to deal with this kind of a traffic, incoming traffic from the newspapers. So let's talk about the main concern for the newspapers, because this is on the front side of each newspapers that I mentioned, the carousels. So I'm in kind of a commercial team, and we are doing, usually we are all around carousels, make it different, make other type of carousels, make it go faster, slower, and everything. So that's the main tasks that we are doing throughout our day. So on 1.0, it was just built into the Drupal, this JCarousel, and it was just exposed in the newspaper in the iframe. We did a separate project for that in the new version, and I will talk about it further. So JCarousels, how did it work? It was working poorly, because there was a view with a node collection in a specific view mode, and all these nodes were put in the script type HTML elements, and then JavaScript, our custom JavaScript, was rewriting it into the actual JCarousel. That was crazy heavy and multi-level type of doing things. And you can just imagine, if JavaScript went down, you've got an empty page with a pure 503 error, and it did happen. So it was kind of a sad. So effect was a terrible performance. If the varnish goes down, or even someone just cleared the whole varnish cache, we've got a 20 minutes dead portal, because Drupal was just trying to handle all this incoming traffic just to push it to the varnish, and it was not good. Also, offer update time was too long, because we had to do the long timeouts on varnish. When customer changes just an offer picture, he had to wait something like 6 hours, and it was just also too long for them. We got many complaints about it. And extremely complicated development. This wasn't a good development, not only because of this mechanism, but also it was spread around Drupal configuration and something like 3 different modules. Just to create new carousel, you had to, for the first time it took me about 2 weeks. But despite the fact that it was hard, we did, for example, implementation of the cube carousel. You can see it on lister. The third letter is S in this. That's not so obvious, I think. And we were just handling it that way. But finally, Aftenposten, the biggest publication, the biggest newspapers that were using this portal for their offers, decided that they have to change the design, because it's not selling too good. It could be better, so let's go with our old consultant company, let's figure it out how to do it. So they needed to refresh the design, made some improvements on the performance, and also they decided to split the work, because the external company was from Norway, but they had an office in Portugal, so we were working hand by hand with Portuguese people, and we were doing the backend stuff mostly, and they were doing the front side. That means the AngularJS programming and closely related stuff. So, just a few words about the design and UX. We needed a modern look. We needed it responsive because before that we were using mobile tools just to switch between mobile version and the desktop plus tablet version. And we needed a larger, better images. We needed a speed because clicking throughout the old portal wasn't too fast. And also this update time should be shorter, so we also tried to lower this time as well. So this was the new design from the designers. It was looking nice, but that's not my main concern. My main concern is about web performance. So the idea was to decouple the front end from the back end in Drupal, because the main concept of the portal is that it's just for public. So almost no one have to log in. The roles are very important, so that is greatly done within the Drupal, so it's nice to use it, and we wanted to stick with that because changing the back office for all our salesmen, there's always hundreds of complaints about it. So let's just leave it. We are very happy with our pack of functionalities for Drupal. We want to stay with that. So we need to divide this project into couples of smaller parts. So using the experience from Portugal, we decided to go with the Angular on the front side and on the front page. And as a data middleman, we've used new Apache Solr 4 because this data provider is very, very fast. I will talk about it later as well. And on backend, we just stayed with Drupal 7 as we are very satisfied with it. So that's the picture. You can see the line between the front end and the back end. And before we've got Drupal mainly as the only core technology. And right now we were changing to Drupal on the back end, to the Solr as this data middleman, and to Angular for our single page app. Also, we've changed the design. As you can see, logo changed as well. So it looks a little bit more modern. Also, we added new technologies, the supporting technologies for our new environment, and that was going from the bottom, the Redis database for our stats counter as we hit the Google Analytics limits on the ads. As you can see, these crazy numbers were above this free account on Google Analytics, and the paid one was for $100,000 per year, so that was out of the picture. I'm not happy with that, but that's just the price. We also used a SAS with Compass for our styles. We were slightly more convinced about these functionalities in comparison to less, as combining sprites were better or something. Also, we use Grant for some automation on the servers and just for deploying, together, of course, with Git that we were using a long time before. And also, we had to be aware that the robots for search engines are acting like non-JS browsers. So, single page app that is fetching all the data through the JavaScript, that would result in an empty page for Google, and we didn't want that, even though the offer portals don't index well, not at all.
What was the code stack? What was the technology?
Technology, PhantomJS. Yes, there will be a slide about it later on. So, functional diagram about this new project that we've built is like this. On the blue, we've got our back office with Drupal. That's the classical entry point, online transaction processing database and so on. So the classic SQL and everything. The roles, the publishing workflow and everything that we were so satisfied about. And this is by the module feeding the data source, our Solr, that is mainly just a fast JSON provider web service. And from the Solr, we are fetching data into the front end built on Angular and supported by PhantomJS. And also to our independent front-end widgets, these carousels that I were talking about. About these carousels, we made it quite independent. We've used our own ideas and technologies, so that's at the end, we just serving the static file, one static file, and I will mention this later on as well. So on the backend, on the Drupal side, we just used Apache Solr search. That's kind of very nice, easy module. The better one that we were using before, the classical search that was handling just the search from Solr in the previous version. We had to write a custom module just to put fields in the proper way to fit just fill the right fields on the Solr in our schema XML. Question?
Is that a Solr module or is it a Search API?
It's not Search API, it's a different module.
Is that the one Rob Douglas made?
Huh?
Is that the module Rob Douglas made?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Rob Douglas started the project.
Could you please speak to the microphone because
Now it's
There was a question about is it a Search API module or is it a separate module? It's a separate module called Apache Solr Search that we were using. So you can see a part of a screen of it. So it's not the part of Search API that we were using before. And from the backend, we are indexing all the content to the Solr. We are doing it also using the Drush cron job. Just to be up to date every 5 minutes, I think we are just pushing all the updates and new created items to the Solr. And I will solve what he's doing. We've used a simplified data model because when we thought a lot, we didn't need all this information about all the relationships and everything. We just stayed with companies, offers, categories, and that was all. So we could simplify this data model very, very much in comparison to Drupal. We didn't need all the reviews, who created them and everything. All this information were kept in the Drupal, so on the back office you have access to everything. Just the public data is being pushed to our Solr. Also, Solr came out with all his functionalities. That means full text search, fast JSON web service. So that was very tremendous change because it's still working very fine without varnish. It's a little bit slower because right now our carousel widget and our portal instance is connecting directly to our Solr, but it's still working on a single VPS, virtual machine, so that's kind of great. Also, we limited public access just to the selects, not to be surprised by deletion of all our information and so on, because that could be troubling. And about selecting, if sometimes someone wants to take all our data, okay, it's just advertisement, just go for it. That's for you. You cannot sell this. You just can't buy it. That's the code fragment from our schema XML. And the interesting fragments are being pointed out. For example, dynamic field random. You can just sort by the random underscore some numbers, and the data that you are fetching will be randomized. Also, we've got dynamic field all text that is used just for full text search, because in the version 1.0 we are using Solr only for search, and right now we are using it for everything, so fetching data and search as well. So it's just capable of that. Okay, about the front end. Phantom is used, actually Phantom is a WebKit browser that is run on the server side, and it's just generating the static file, just generated file, the same one that should be generated in your browser on your computer on mobile phone. So serving this prepared static file that is placed in static directory usually, it's just very fast. So our workflow right now is when someone connects us, it's just being served with our static file. If static file is not present, we are just asking Phantom for create static copy. And what about it more? Also, PhantomJS, you have to be patient and you have to be patient about it because it's not so stable. We've turned it on, but it came out that on 40,000 hits per minute, Redis was feeling okay, no problem, low latency and everything, but our server went down. So that was kind of a sad. Later on, we tried to just switch to our internal counters, but it's still too big number of hits for this system as well. Because, as I said, we've got plenty of publications, plenty of newspapers, and the carousels could be placed anywhere around this newspaper. Okay, so once we finished this project and everything was working, let's say it was working, for the end user everything was working. From our perspective, there were some fixes that should be done. We've taken over the whole project from the Portuguese and Norwegians because that was the plan. So post-launch stories. What we've changed, why we did have to change it, and what did we learn after the launch. So the 3 topics, I've chosen 3 topics. One is carousel widgets were built on AngularJS. That was a mistake, but that was a problem with the requirements, and it was done externally, so that was something according to the plan, but the result was very bad because the carousel itself was a very, very big amount of data. It was too slow to load, and on the front page of any newspapers we've got a lot of these, so we were the slowest, so it was bad. Also on mobile it was killing some devices, so it had to be changed very fast. Also we tried to mix something. I will talk about how easy it is in Angular. And our carousel design was too smooth, actually, because it was too easy to omit on the page. So, carousel widgets. That was the first thing that we had to care about just a minute after the launch. So, we have thrown out AngularJS and also jQuery because Phantom failed as a solution here. We couldn't omit having jQuery loaded when we were using and creating this static file using PhantomJS. And still, it was too many levels. It's just a single page, just this carousel. So we found the Swipe.js, a very lightweight library for very nice little carousels, just for mobiles as well. So we thought that, okay, we will build something responsive and maybe we will use the same code just for mobile and desktop, probably later on. And we also improve it. My colleague just did an implementation of a system when you have 3 times the number of ads visible, just for scrolling forth and back, and only the data, the text data is being changed, and they are just juggled between them. Because if you have something like 55 offers, creating new elements is just memory, is just taking more and more memory, and it's not so nice, especially for the smaller devices like mobiles. So we've got, right now it's no matter if we have 100 or just 10 offers, because it's the same amount of HTML, just the data is bigger, of course, because you have new information about what kind of image and text and so on. We lazy load images, of course, and we are using Grunt just to combine all this, our custom JavaScript, CSS and everything, uglify it, minimize it, and put it into one file. That's 18.1 kilobytes, and that's, if you zip it, it's even less, it's below 7. So that's just working. Single page application, not in this case. Single static page. So we are back just serving the index HTML. Oh, that's my favorite slide. That's not my slide, that's actual the image that we received from our client. That's why some writings added are in Norwegian. And the client was complaining that image is not clickable, and he suggests us to take this, some of our buttons higher and so on. He was complaining that he has too low clicks on this. I don't know why, but it was probably like that. So we had to experiment some on the call to action buttons, because it's very closely, very interesting number for our clients. How many of our visitors just clicked and went to their site? So we just put the bigger button for set ilboot, that means see the offer, just made image clickable and so on. So that was a little change, but we A/B tested it and it's just better. It looks like 57%. It's the version B, the new version. Also, how easy is to do A/B testing on Angular? It's very easy, because I've just created a variable in the global scope that it depends on the second, the actual second, if it's an odd second or even second, and the user will be see the version A or the version B. And in AngularJS, it's easy just to put the conditions. Should this widget have this element, should have this class of CSS or not, and how to even switch between the blocks of the later on generated HTML. So that's very easy to do real A/B testing there. It's not so easy in the code, but it's just a temporary solution, and then you just have to clean it up when you know which version won. The third topic, that the carousels were too smooth. So on the left-hand side you have old design, and on the right, new. The left was just very easy to omit. This is the carousel for mobile, and this is the carousel for desktop. So we just had too much overlay on the images. They were kind of hidden, and we just did the bigger contrast and put the images in the better visibility.
So do you mean people just didn't notice that it was a carousel when you say it was too smooth?
Yes, they were just running, the eyes were just running through it and just scrolling down.
Basically ignore it.
Ignore it, yes. They were ignoring it, and our job is to make it not being ignored because that's advertisement, but you know, the newspapers have to get money from some source. That's just natural. And the results, we've got plus 40% visits. Just the same placement, the same size of the carousels and so on. So that's crazy difference. You can see the 3 weeks before, 3 weeks after. It's not an accident. Yes, that was just good. So I'm finishing. finally. To look that we didn't care to look at because we wanted to have it separated. We wanted to have a small part, small projects that are easy to implement, easy to change, and not. We just didn't want to fear about the whole solution, the whole portal when we are changing something in our carousel, for example. And we didn't need, thanks to this decoupling of the front side and the back office, we didn't need to mess with each other, with those parts at once. Also, you can see that even if Drupal drops down, everything is working. There's no new data, but Solr is just keeping all the data. So it's still serving all the data, everything is working. And the fact that Drupal is not serving the front end, also it's just not that fragile that it's been before. So also there is one conclusion about Redis. It's a great tool, and you should, I think, you should use it instead of Memcache. Even in Drupal itself, on our other project, it proved to be 10 times faster than the Memcache caching. Also, single page app is not the answer for everything. In our particular case, we've got a portal that you don't have to log, you don't need to log in. So it was very easy to decouple those front end and the back end. So I think there's no ultimate answer to the question of web architecture. This is just one of the propositions, and probably you should consider that if you got familiarity. Thanks. And also I encourage you just to design the projects for a change, because the change is the only sure thing in the IT. Everything is changing. A couple of years ago we didn't have much mobiles. Right now 50% of our traffic for our newspapers in Norway are being read on the mobiles. So that's just changing all the time. And it's kind of it. So thank you for your attention, and I'm open for questions for the next 22 minutes, I think. Okay, you can ask questions in Polish as well. I will translate it and I will repeat all the questions. Okay, I was just asked why I said that Drupal is fast enough, because from the whole use case came out that the less you use Drupal, the faster it is. Because Drupal, I think that was a trick, yes, obviously, but in that case, but Drupal could be fast enough if you are building it the right way. This whole portal wasn't built in the right way. We've got use of context, we've got panels, we've got a lot of views there, we've got, it was something like crowd development. When it was created, we just received the whole package. So changing it and putting it down for a moment, it would be very hard because of the clients and so on. Many publications, many newspapers are using it, so that would be a problem in that case. But I think, and I know from the other other examples, that Drupal is fast enough, even without varnish, because for us it was varnish before, right now it is a single page app. But also, you shouldn't push, I think, you shouldn't push into Drupal too much. If something just don't fit, you can always do some kind of external project just for a widget, for examples. So basically that was kind of a trick, is fast enough. But I think the main thing about Drupal that is its great functionalities and so on. And the decoupling front end from the back end is the trend that you can see not only in Drupal but everywhere. Most of the big systems that tried to do both and everything are just too slow right now. Thank you.
Why the switch from Search API to Solr?
Why we switched from Search API to Solr module? Because we didn't have good experience with Search API, basically. It was a problem, it just hanged, dropped, crashed many times when you have an index above 1,000 records, and it's not that much for the data indexes, I think. We've got problems. We tried to figure it out, and then our Portuguese friends just served us with this, try this. We tried it, it just worked. So from our perspective, it's much easier, and it's not bloated that much. It's just about Solr and indexing. It's just a module for the Solr index, not Solr API, which is doing everything, facets and Solr as well.
Another question. Did you add any contextual links, for example, to edit a node from the front end to back end?
No. Simple as that, but no. Also, we've got a very similar URL for the backend, so you just putting some prefix into the domain, and you are on the backend on the same offer. As you saw the number of publications, right now only 2 publications, because it's kind of fresh, are in the new concept. The rest are still running in the old concept, so we have to run both concepts at once. And it's just easily working because we did just new bricks to it on the same servers.
You talked a lot about a one-page app, but what do you mean with that exactly? Is that like asynchronous loading of content, or what do you mean exactly with a one-page app?
Okay, what did I mean about a single page app? Because I talked about it a lot. Is this asynchronous loading of the data and so on? Yes, that's just a typical use of AngularJS. So you are entering the site with established single page app. You are being fed with all of this JavaScript, and you are just querying for a data, JSON data. So there is no actual refresh of the page. We are just on this some kind of a single page, and just JavaScript is going all around. Of course, a lot of asynchronous data is being fetched, and so on.
And why did you choose to do it that way?
Why did we choose to do it that way? Because that's fast. That's fast. Only problem is the SEO, I think, in that. And we were able to do that because of the specifics of the project. Because the data model was quite easy, and most of our traffic came from the guys that don't log in. That's why it was possible, and it just fitted there.
So then when you were using
You are close enough.
when you were using PhantomJS, were you then generating the JSON, like the JSON objects that you were then loading into your one-page app, or what were you exactly loading? Or like because you said that you were pre-caching like your whole site. Was it just the individual pages, like your one-page app loaded on with a specific content, or was it also the individual requests that you're preloading?
It works that way that that was a nice. And no, we are not caching JSON's requests. Actually, when you are entering the single page app, you are entering the first page, and then you are just clicking. So just the entry point for you is being generated. That means that because all the other anchor elements, typical HTML, are just taken over by JavaScript. And so just your entry point is the static file. So you are being fed with the JavaScript, but the ready page as well. So you could see content even though your JavaScript is off. And you see all these links. So if you imagine yourself non.js robot, you have content, okay, you've got links, so you are clicking the link. And you are still getting new version of the cached static version from Phantom. If you are not robot and you've got a regular browser, you are just going there, receiving a static file, because in this configuration we are feeding everyone with the static file generated from PhantomJS. And then you are just clicking around using JavaScript. So you are not changing the page, just the URL is being changed within the same domain because of the cross-domain limitations. Any other questions? Okay, so if not, that's the end. Thank you very much.